You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show with the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. I don't think we have any new callers, so let's go with Beer Cheese Benny.
Hey, Ryan. Beer Cheese Benny here.
Hi.
I am still so effing pissed off. I mean, it's just one of those things where now I have to deal with this whole week and wait to see if Matt Lafleur has it in him to make the changes and beat the effing Dallas Cowboys, who literally cannot get pressure on the quarterback. Can we do it? And I'm going to be wearing my Make the Packers Great Again hat.
All right.
Because that's what we need to do. We need to make the Packers great again.
It's true.
And I don't even know what to say, dude. I mean, I'm literally so pissed. And now I have to work. I mean, come on.
Shouldn't have to work. I was
working and we won. I'm like, oh, yeah, alrighty, we won. Yeah, sweet, I get to work, and I'm happy. I'm not happy right now. I'm really pissed off. And I just literally, at the end of, like, near the, whenever Jordan threw that pick, I don't know, I'm so pissed, I don't even remember when it was.
Right.
Man. Literally, if all we had to do was drive downfield and maybe score a field goal, and the defense takes care of it because the Browns' offense is pathetic. I mean, literally, they were not going to do nothing. Just needed a long drive, scoring drive, but like throughout the game, like literally, I've said this before, I can't get over it. Just score 2 touchdowns throughout the entire game,
right,
and we win the game.
Right.
It doesn't matter. 17 points wins you the game. I don't know what to, and I'm going to stop talking. I can't do it.
Yes to all of those things, Beer Cheese. Correct. And hopefully that hat will do us some favors here in terms of turning around the juju.
Hey, Ryan, it's Craig. It's Monday morning, and was listening to your reaction podcast, Phil allowed the same way. Luckily I was taking your advice and enjoying it while it lasted the first couple of games, because I knew at some point something would happen that would be a little disappointing or frustrating. I just didn't think it was going to be this weekend.
I didn't either, to be honest.
And I'm trying not to overreact, but I went from being, hey, I don't know if there's anyone who can beat us, to anyone now can beat us.
Right? Does
that make sense?
It does.
It was just that flip so quickly. And again, try not to overreact, but especially after this weekend results, going, crap, maybe Carolina can beat us. Look at what they did to, I think, the Falcons, and look what the Bears did to Dallas. And it's like, gosh, now every Sunday I'm going to go in nervous about are we going to show up like we did against Cleveland? And I think that will continue. I think it'll continue into the playoffs. Unfortunately, even when we were 15-1, that one loss that year, I think it was the Kansas City when they weren't very good. And then we get beat in the playoffs. And so I certainly have lost confidence. I still think it's a good team. I still think it's a playoff team, and I still think when we're at our best, but we just showed that we can, I think as Micah Parsons said, kind of crap the bed. So that was a bummer. I keep hearing how the defense looked so good, and I know they were keeping them out of the end zone, and obviously, not many points and stuff, but I don't know. I thought there were times where, Nixon got picked on a little bit this time after coming off such a good game, and we weren't quite getting to Flacco, lots of pressures, but and I know maybe a couple sacks, but
let me pause you because we're running over a couple different things, and I'm going to end up forgetting everything. First of all, yeah, I do think that's one of the worst parts about this is stealing that confidence. I last week, even though I did say, you never know when this thing will come to an end, there was a feeling of confidence like I think a lot of Packer fans hadn't had in a long time, and that goes to zero when you lose to one of the quote-unquote easiest teams on the schedule. That certainly could be argued, but yeah, now there is that sense of at any moment we could lose a game. I will say something to keep in mind is not that the Packers can't find new ways to lose games, but I think there is such a thing as matchups. You know, we tend to think about things in terms of rankings. You know, the number 1, 2, 3, 4 through 32 ranked team, and the Browns rank down here, therefore they're just bad. They're a unique kind of bad, and they actually end up being a pretty bad matchup for us because of their strong defense. And I've talked about this before. We've seen this with really good Packers teams in the past under Rodgers, where really bad teams with like top 5 defenses end up either keeping it way closer than it should be or flat out beating us at times. So, you know, when it comes to other teams, I would probably lean toward, considering defense is a strength and it's been strong for 3 straight games, I'm less concerned about just generically losing as I am, you know, if we go up against a really scary defense where it's like, I mean, at some point you got to score, and that's the problem. I mean, our defense is good. I don't think we hold them to 0 points, and so it becomes a question of, can our offense overcome their defense, which is unfortunate because we should have an offense that's good enough. And also, and I know this call came in on Monday, we also have to factor in that I don't think our offense is as bad as it appeared. I think that there was 2 specific situations. One is the offensive line, which hopefully this frickin' coaching staff will get figured out so they don't continue to keep doing that to us. We'll put that kind of in the fluky category, except for the part where, I mean, this has already kind of been a known thing and it still hasn't been fixed. The other is the penalties. This is historically bad. I mean, 14 penalties is borderline unheard of. So, on one hand, there shouldn't be an expectation that this happens regularly, but it did happen. So there is still going to be that feeling of, dang it, I skipped the call. That feeling of, could it happen again, or could we find some other stupid way to lose this game, or whatever? I accidentally went to the next call because I forgot I paused it. So hopefully this is roughly where you left off.
Confidence. I still think it's a good team. I still think it's a playoff team, and I still think when we're at our best, but we just showed that we can, I think as Micah Parsons said, kind of crap the bed. So that was a bummer. I keep hearing now the defense looks so good, and I know they were keeping them out of the end zone, and obviously, you know, not many points and stuff, but I don't know. I thought there were times where, you know, Nixon got picked on a little bit this time after.
That was the other thing, was the Nixon thing that I wanted to comment on. That his elite game against Washington was always kind of fake, if we're being honest. Not to say he's bad, but the idea, I mean, first of all, nobody plays that way consistently. 0 people. Take the best corner in the history of football. They do not perform at that level consistently. So he's going to drop off. Now, he didn't have a bad game, and I don't think he's a bad corner. But I think he is what he is. I think he's going to get a little bit of a bump because of our of our defense, but you know, he's going to give up receptions like every corner is. So, you know, I don't want to get caught up in holding our guys to these crazy standards because of performances like what we saw against Washington.
Coming off such a good game, and we weren't quite getting to Flacco, lots of pressures, but and I know maybe a couple sacks, but I just was surprised we weren't doing more, I guess, with containing him or disrupting him more than we did. And
again, like from my perspective, because again, the stats do kind of back it up. We got there a ton. The other thing, and this is where, you know, just everything went wrong. And we've seen this before with, I still remember Kirk Cousins doing this to us all the time. He was never as good as he was when he played us. Flacco, like I said, came into the game with like a 29 grade under pressure. That guy was under pressure, it felt like 50% of his throws, and every single one of them was completed. So it's not that the pressure wasn't necessarily there. It's that the ball came out quick, and he was not flustered by it, and the passes were... Even when we hit his arm, the ball still got to its intended target on time, in rhythm. Like, it was just such a bullcrap game that was just divine intervention. For whatever reason, the Packers were not supposed to win that game, and they didn't.
That he was playing well above what he normally does. And then, a couple big run plays that happened that kind of killed us. But it was definitely the offense, definitely special teams that killed the game. But we'll see if we can bounce back against Dallas. I certainly hope we do, especially after what the Bears did to them. We better win that one, otherwise we're going to go in the bye, I think, pretty shaken.
Yeah, and I was looking at the rest of the NFC North. They don't have super tough games coming up. I mean, Detroit does have Cleveland, so we're fingers crossed that their defense can, do something to stop that offense a little bit, but I wouldn't necessarily anticipate that. So, I mean, there's some wins for the NFC North. I don't know what Minnesota really is right now with the new quarterback situation, but they looked good last week, as did the Bears, and they have winnable games coming up. You fall to Dallas, and we might be falling to bottom of the NFC North. So you cannot do that anymore. It's done. It's over. No more bull crap. I don't know what else to say.
I'm glad the bye is coming when it is. Hopefully, again, Reed and Watson can come back and we can get our offensive line feeling better. I'm very pissed about them playing Tom. I don't know why we continue to do that.
I don't
We
know.
did it last year with Jordan.
Part 2 for Craig.
Hey, Ryan, it's Craig. Sorry, maybe I hit the 3-minute or someone was calling me too, so don't know what interrupted.
3 minutes.
But, I just wanted to sign off. It's weird. I can never just end and not call back in and say, go Pack, go. So let's do it. Let's bounce back against the Cowboys and come out of the bye and make a big run. Take care. Bye.
The injury thing is getting very frustrating. I will leave open the possibility that they're doing things by the book. I don't know, but it's really giving me the impression that they are pushing very hard to get guys to come back early. They're probably taking guys' words for it, which, again, is always a bad idea. The player should have very little. I shouldn't say very little. Obviously, that you need to get some of the stuff from them. But players are always going to say that they can play, unless you're Jair or what's his name. But even that, you start to sympathize with Jair a little bit, where it's like they're trying to push me back when I'm not ready, which is screwing me over. And it's like, if that was his specific complaint, I wouldn't be surprised, because that's kind of what it felt like, or what it feels like they do all the freaking time. I appreciate being competitive, and I appreciate expecting your guys to be tough and fighting through injury. I do, but I also think it's your job to protect your guys and be smart so that we have them when we need them the most. I mean, of all the games, granted, we lost, so, I mean, there is no such thing as a guarantee, which, whatever. But if you can't say, we can't hold them out for a week 3 game against an AFC opponent at the bottom of the hierarchy, then you're just refusing to ever hold anybody out for any game ever. It's balls to the wall, and we're willing to risk injury at all costs to be at full strength, which it won't be full strength anyways, because Zach Tom would have been playing extremely hurt in that game. He would not have played at his best. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not in the room. I don't know exactly what the discussions are that are being had and who's responsible exactly for what between the player, the training staff, the doctors, the coaching staff, all that stuff. I don't know fully, but somewhere in there seems to be a very stupid process that plays people too much and they get too hurt. Maybe we're just super unlucky. I don't know, but it's not feeling that way. It's really not. And that Jordan Love thing, I think, was pretty unacceptable to begin with. I mean, I don't know how you can get out of that one. because it was a last-minute thing. You never saw him practice, so you didn't know if he could do it. And within the first snap, you could see he wasn't ready. So, which means you didn't properly vet whether he was ready. He couldn't put weight on his foot. Bro, he's not ready. I just don't understand, dude. All right, let's take a break. We got Corey from Ohio on the other side.
What up, Ryan? Corey from Ohio. Just wanted your thoughts on the game. I thought it was kind of funny that our defense holds up all game long. And then on their final drive that they scored on, they needed 2 penalties on both third downs that were not converted. They got penalties, and both penalties were automatic first down penalties.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an absolute joke. And the first one, the receiver literally throws his hands up to the ref, and then the ref decides to throw the flag late as hell.
Yeah. I was going to say, I remember that one because there was no... And the ref that was closest didn't do anything. And I remember you're watching it, and he's throwing a fit and all this stuff. And, there's a certain point as a fan where you kind of hold your breath, and then you exhale. Me and my son have started doing that, especially with the Packers and their freaking penalty problems recently, where we don't high five. We like, wait. Okay, high five. And this was like a wait. Okay, high five. Flag. Like, what, dude? What is that? Did it get stuck? You trying to yank that thing out again? Did you lose it? You couldn't find it? Or were you sitting there contemplating for a while and went, nah, screw it?
I thought that was corny, but I wanted your thoughts on the game, and I don't know, I just feel like Lafleur didn't call his best game. Our pass rush, their pass rush were both, really good, and it seemed like if they were calling plays where Flacco had an outlet and a check down ready every time if our rush got close. And it seemed like Jordan Love didn't have that. I don't know if it's play calling or what's going on, but I just felt like he didn't call the best game today. I feel like Jordan Love played like crap, was missing checkdowns and stuff, easy throws he should have made. I don't know, man. It just makes me a little nervous, play like that to Cleveland. But part of me says, you know what, we had 2 big, huge home wins. First game on the road, we're overlooking them, kind of a letdown type game, and we'll be okay. But I don't know, it makes me nervous that against a good defense, our offense looks so poopy. And it also doesn't understand why we haven't got Matthew Golden going yet. It looked like we were going to this game. We started off with 2 or 3 throws to him on the first drive and then just disappeared. So, I don't know, man. Let me know what you're thinking. Later. Oh, by the way, I was wondering, you still haven't got that Brett Favre rap to me. Is there any way you could email that to me or something? Or is there a way to get it from you? Other than that, thanks, man.
Well, yeah, I think I had mentioned to you if you wanted to text me or something. I don't know if you did and gave me a thing, but I'll tell you what I'll do. As I mentioned, and you called in beforehand, but there is the first official, and I should check on the status of it. It said it could take a week, which is freaking stupid and annoying. I don't know, but over on what is it called? I can't get iTunes out of it. I think iTunes also, it's pretty much all the different players it gets distributed to, but Spotify is the one I'm thinking of. I created a thing called Packernet Studios, just lame first thing that came to the top of my head. And a while ago, I had released the Golden Bullet song. So there is a Packernet Studios, which is like the artist name or whatever, that you can find music in, but it's just been the Golden Bullet song. There is a new, like a full album coming, so you can, let me just see if it's there. I don't think it is, because I usually get emails about it. No, it looks like it's just Golden Bullet right now. But let me get to the point here. I'm going to be releasing some more stuff. One of them is going to be the rookie class album, because if you remember during the draft, there was a bunch of different, each one had their own song. It's funny because I started listening back to a bunch of them. I have 5 Savion Williams songs. I must have had a hard time trying to choose which one was the best, because there's a ton of Savion Williams songs, which is the other thing, is some of these are bonuses that you've never heard before. So I'll go back and try to collect some more oldie but goodie ones. And I'll make sure the Brett Favre rap is on that. And I'll try to make sure that gets out there for everybody. I got to start putting together the songs for each of those, but those will be the next two to come out. One is, again, just kind of going to be, I guess, random. If you guys have any recommendations, by the way, the non-rookie ones, I know the Anthony Belton song was really popular, but if there were like some old ones from back in the day that you really liked that you wanted to add to it, because right now the other album just has the Brett Favre rap on it, as requested by Corey from Ohio. So any other recommendations, songs you heard a long time ago that you liked, let me know and I will slap it on there. What else are we talking about here? Oh, so I had kind of mentioned that it's hard to tell without going back and looking at it, and maybe that's just what I'll do for tomorrow's podcast. I had a different plan, but now I'm kind of curious. It wouldn't take that long to just go back and look at all the plays in which he was under pressure and try to make some kind of a determination, whether or not they were outlets or if guys were just covered up or what. That would kind of determine whether it's a offensive line, Matt Lafleur, Jordan Love problem. I mean, either way, it's an offensive line problem, but, were there opportunities that maybe Jordan didn't capitalize on? And again, as far as Flacco, why was he able to do stuff? I mean, a lot of it just comes down to Flacco. I mean, that was superhuman nonsense, what he was able to do. And then as far as Golden, I think it's just hard. I think they probably wanted to get him going. It's just hard because you're under pressure 24/7. How many routes did they, if there was blocking, Golden would have been open. I'm sure there's probably a ton of them. And had he not seemingly stumbled, if you look at it in full speed, it kind of looks like on that big play that could have gone for a touchdown, he took like a weird step, almost like when you twist your ankle or something a little bit. Like he came down one foot and then the second foot, he kind of like lurches to the side, like toward the sideline. And that's when it looked like he kind of went out, which is so unfortunate. If he could have turned it up, man, that would have been, first of all, we win the game. Second of all, we're all beyond excited about, winning, being top of the division, and excited about Matthew Golden. And everybody's talking about Matthew Golden and hyping him up 24/7 and all that stuff. And one little misstep changes freaking everything. But I think that's just a taste of what's to come. It was a beautiful throw. He was wide open. That was an opportunity. The first time it's not obviously not the first time, but the first big connection they had an opportunity for a touchdown. I don't think it'll be the last. I think there's going to be a lot more of that. We got to get a freaking offensive line that can block for 5 seconds, and I think there's going to be a lot more of that. But it's hard to get anything or anyone going when your quarterback can't hold the ball for more than 5 seconds. So I guess as of right now, those are my thoughts. I do want to go back and look because there are some things that are just kind of floating out there for me, and I probably should have a more defined view of these things if we're going to continue, even though, again, I think 95% of it has been solved by just understanding the offensive line screwed this entire freaking game, and there's a good chance that the coaching staff was the reason that the offensive line screwed the entire game. And I don't know if that's the O-line coach, the offensive coordinator, the head coach. I don't know who's responsible for that, but that person needs to get their crap together or get fired. And this is also where I start to get into that whole, I get annoyed because I don't think anybody's going to get fired. That generally is not how these things work. Maybe once in a while you might see something like that, but it's always like either you get hired away and then we promote from within or something. Like, it would be nice. I know they won't do it, and, it's like, well, these are human beings, and they're doing as good a job as they can, and they have families, and we go out to dinner with their families, and I don't want to have to look them in the eye. Whatever. We need a sociopath head coach that is simply going to say, let's pretend, just like when we lost our defensive coordinator, what did we do? We scoured the earth to find the most elite, brilliant defensive coordinator on planet Earth. Can we do that with offensive coordinator? I like our offensive coordinator. I loved him as an offensive line coach. But do I think he's like the Jeff Hafley of offensive coordinators? I kind of don't. I would be surprised to find that out. I also am getting the impression our new offensive line coach is nowhere near as good as our old offensive line coach, who is now currently our offensive coordinator. So I would love the opportunity to tell Stenovich, hey, bro, I will give you as much money, I will make you the highest paid offensive line coach in football if you're willing to take a step down. If you're not, then you're just getting fired. and then go out and find the Jeff Hafley of offensive core. I know that's Matt Lafleur's thing, but damn it, dude. I don't want to have the greatest defense the Packers have had since 1996 and squander it because we got guys that can't figure out basics on offense. Oh, you mean they timed our snap count again like they were doing to us last year? Oh, gee. And it cost us the frickin' game against one team that should have been kind of an easy win? Oh, gee golly. Bro, come on. And you had 4 quarters to figure it out and apparently just didn't. We need sociopaths as leading this team. Oh, we can get 5% better? Great. We're moving on. I mean, we do that with players, don't we? It sounds cruel or whatever, but if this guy's 5% better, then guess what? At the deadline, the guy that's 5% worse goes home, and his NFL career is done forever. Goodbye, get out, gone, see ya. I think we should have that same process for the coaching staff. We should bring in extra coaches in the offseason. We should have like 5 offensive coordinators, 5 defensive coordinators, 7 wide receiver coaches, and it's a tryout. And the best one gets the job, and the other ones go bye-bye. I'm not being super serious, but I'm borderline kind of serious. I don't know how you get anything done with that because those guys need to actually come up with game plans. But, you could just have them hanging around. We have an offensive coordinator that helps develop all the things that we're going to do in the offseason. But also there's Frank, who is like the wannabe offensive coordinator. It's like, okay, well, what would your plan be? Well, I think we should do this. And like before a game, a preseason game, be like, okay, what's your game plan? You think they're going to do what? This? Okay. What do you think they're going to do, and what do you think we should do? It's kind of like when they hired Brian Gutekunst to be the guy, and all Mark Murphy did, apparently, was be like, go get your notebook that, said who you liked or whatever. And he looked through it, and he was like, you nailed a bunch of stuff that we got wrong, and so you're hired. You were right about a lot of things that we were wrong about when it came to drafting players. That one guy that was a bust, let me find that page. Oh, it says, don't draft him ever, he sucks. Guess what? You get the job. Congratulations. All right. I'm sorry. Biggie.
Whoa, Pack Daddy. I am currently wearing a fake beard and glasses because my last comment did not age well. Sounds rather foolish in hindsight. So that kind of overconfidence, if you will.
We all did it.
Not supposed to be shared by the team. I think we as fans can do that. And I've got to remind myself, by the way, to never refer to it as us or we when I'm talking about the Packers, because I don't want them to think. I don't want us to be on the same team. I want them to be my team, somebody I look up to. And that was not great. There's a lot of things, I could talk about how, the Browns, that won't be they won't be the last game they win. But that's a trap, man. That's talking like, they were a little better team than we. No. Again, my expectations for the Packers were sky high. They still are. But that performance by the offense, really, really quite pathetic. The line just decided that, we really don't need to block or something. I don't know. I guess they just came up against real men, so maybe the earlier efforts from Detroit, from Washington fell short, but, that was pretty lame. And I believe that sometimes Lafleur has a tendency to treat games like they're practices or opportunities to play with his offensive schemes. I mean, I'd love to, I don't want to give Dan Campbell too many props, but for example, that kind of killer instinct I'd love seeing brought to the Packers a little bit more. And I've seen flashes of it, but I think that, that kind of nerdy scientist approach that I see sometimes and that inability to consistently dominate other teams, maybe that's why Matt's never won Coach of the Year or whatever. Right? And I'm not here to bash him over one game because, my expectations are sky high, but obviously, some things got to change. When they didn't come out of the locker room all fired up, that was just weird. That's coaching. But anyway, go Pack, go.
Yeah, and some people were even pointing out, you'll find plays on defense, and again, the defense certainly was not the issue, and they did a good job. But there was one play in particular. Somebody highlighted a tackle, and there was like 5 guys around. Well, 2 of them tried to tackle. 3 of them kind of just stopped and watched. And it's like, this would have been a 5-person pileup gang tackle a week ago. For whatever reason, they just did not have the same amount of fire. And, at the end of the day, that is the player's responsibility. I mean, if you need a rah-rah speech from your coach, then something's wrong with you. I don't know what else to say, but, from a coach's standpoint, though, you still got to try to figure out, like, what is it going to take? What is there something I can do, or I don't know. I mean, look, I guess that's the reality. Not everybody's going to be up all the time and for everything, but especially when some of this stuff, like for whatever reason on road games, that tends to be more of an issue. And that could have been later in the game when they were freaking discouraged. I think the defense will eventually get very discouraged at a game when the offense just refuses to do anything, and you feel like all your efforts are for nothing. Perhaps in the beginning of the game they were much more motivated. I don't know. But I don't know. They certainly got to figure it out. I mean, this is not going to be... It's something you have to bounce back from, because there's going to be a feeling, the same feeling we have, the Packers players are also going to have that feeling. This feeling of like, are we good? Do we suck? I don't know. So, we don't have as much control as the players do to kind of prove it to themselves or whatever, but they got to come out a million miles an hour and pummel Dallas to kind of get everybody back on track to recognize, like, okay, that was a freaking fluke. We messed up. Coaches messed up. Players messed up. Whatever. But we're back. We're back. We need a we're back game, especially going into a bye, feeling strong. You drop this game, man, and it's going to be 2 weeks of absolute misery. Plus, you're coming out of the bye with no confidence. Yeah, it's a very, very big game. It just is. All right, let's take a break. We got Jared, the Uber driver, on the other end.
Howdy, this is Jared, the Uber driver from Texas.
Yo.
And I was listening to Packernet After Dark. I think the deja vu game that you were thinking about is the snow playoff game against the 49ers, where we had it. Special teams error. Now, of course, we had a chance still to come back in that game with the whole throwing it up to Devontae instead of looking toward the Lizard King. But, I think that's the one that you're thinking about.
It could be.
Maybe to help get people's minds off the game a little bit, just out of curiosity, could you pull up, like, the PFF grades or whatever on how Jair, Alexander, and Kenny Clark are doing in their new homes?
Well, Jair's not playing because he's hurt.
See how much we're maybe missing them or not. Go Pack, go.
Kenny Clark currently is having his best season since 2021. He has his best run defense grade since 2020. The pass rush is just getting back to 2023, so he's kind of rebounding from whatever. He has 9 pressures on 75 attempts, so that would be 12%, which is solid Kenny Clark number, and 1 sack. So he's doing all right. He's doing fine. Nothing super fantastic. His 3 games were 60 grade, 79 against the Giants, and then a 69.8 against Chicago. Jair has only played 1 week. He played 33 snaps in week 1 against Buffalo and had a 29 PFF grade. So he was pretty terrible. Gave up 3 receptions on 3 targets for 83 yards, 29 grade, and then has been out with an injury for the last couple weeks. So I feel real bad for Jair. I just do. He's only 28 years old, and his freaking injuries have just been so bad. He had 1 full season after 2020. He was hurt in 2021, played in 2022, and played well. Was hurt in 2023, hurt in 2024, and now hurt again in 2025. And it's not a good start for Jair. So I think he got hurt in like Maybe even in 2020. I don't know. It looks like he didn't play a full season, but the injuries have just completely ravaged his quite good career. You know, I mean, he has not had a single season grade under a 70. Even in his injured year, a lot of times guys get injured and it's like they got bad grades, but they're kind of fluky because it was an injured year. He was injured every year and still never. His worst year was 2023. He played 400 snaps, which is about half to a third of what you typically would see, and still had a 70.2 grade, 73 coverage grade, and that was his lowest coverage grade, was a 73. And he's a good football player, and he seems like a good dude. He seems like a fun dude, but it freaking sucks, man. But yes, very, very obviously the right decision to get him going in another direction. And the Kenny thing, no matter what, will never be a bad decision. I mean, even if Kenny pops off, we got Micah out of that deal, so I'm feeling pretty okay about that whole situation. Part 2.
Howdy, it's Jared, the Uber driver from Texas. I forgot to mention that apparently Brandon Perna, good friends of Tom Grassi, he apparently cursed the Packers this week. So another person to blame, Rasheed Walker and Brandon Perna. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, I'll be sure to keep that in mind. I'm not a regular Perna consumer, but I do know who he is. So I'll do that. I'll be sure to blame him for all my problems in my life.
Hey, Aaron, it's Nate. I'm sure you're tired of all the calls already, but I wanted to give myself a full day. I wanted to wait until the next day to actually call in with my thoughts and questions. And I don't know. I hope you're able to calm us all down here, because that was just terrible. There's no way around it. It looked like a peewee football team playing against an elite defense. It was comical. It was almost comical how little we could do against that defense. And it's bothering me because I have a whole newfound hatred of our offensive line. I thought we were going to have, maybe not the best line, but I thought we were going to, have a top 10 offensive line. I didn't think that was a crazy thing to say, but I don't know. Is everybody else's line just as bad, or what's going on? Because I don't know. It was everybody. It was everybody up and down the entire offensive line, particularly our high draft pick, who is supposed to be something. I don't know. Are we moving him around too much? I don't know. I have no answers for this. I'm sure you covered a lot of it, but I'm not going to lie to you. I could only get about halfway through the episode this morning because it was just reopening a very fresh wound. So, I don't know what to do. Don't know what to do about the offense. The offense has been showing it's definitely the weaker side of things, but that was rough. That can't happen in the playoffs, We're going to face defenses that are good in the playoffs. It's going to happen. They can't do that. That's not a Super Bowl caliber team. I'm sorry. Go back, go.
Yeah, and, obviously, like you said, I have covered a lot of this, and I do think some of that was fluky, which would be more on the coaching staff, and I can't promise you it's going to get better because it was a problem last year, and they still didn't fix it. So I would hope that they identified part of that issue. I still am of the opinion that when healthy, this is a top 10 line. They were, prior to this game, considered a top 10 offensive line. Now they've dropped to 30th based on, depending on what metric you look at, because it was that freaking bad. But, again, you have to keep in mind this was a historically bad performance for this line, for the Packers, for any team ever. And there's a reason for that. And it's something that you wouldn't really expect to ever have happen again. And again, that is the promising thing. It was so unbelievably bad that it almost had to be a generationally bad performance from an offensive line that is usually quite good in order for us to lose by frickin' 3 points or whatever it was. That is the positive spin on this whole thing. So unless we have 14 penalties and, 30 PFF grade averages across the offensive line for the rest of the season, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like the reverse of if we had barely won on the back of like a 6 interception game or something, where you would look at that and go, okay, I that was cool, but I don't think that's ever going to happen again, and we might be in trouble. It's kind of it's the reverse of that. So, like I said, it's not to say that they can't find new things to screw up next time. New things that other coaching staffs can exploit, but as of right now, if that's the issue and one team exploited it and, you know, kind of showed their hand and now the Packers can fix it or whatever, then I feel like pending some new issue next week, I don't think we're going to see that again. And the other thing, again, is I think it's going to be really tough to beat the Packers at home. Obviously, you don't have the whole silent count thing. The noise is in our favor. So we got to figure out that stupid silent count thing. But otherwise, this is a very tough team to beat in Lambeau. Packers just now have to prove that they can win in noisy environments without this stupid. And that's the first thing I'm going to be looking for too. If our center, if Elton Jenkins lifts his head and snaps the ball every single time, I'm going to freak out. I'm just absolutely going to lose my mind. He better be doing some dummy stuff where he snaps his head up and then kind of looks back down, snaps his head up again, whatever. And again, a lot of that comes down to getting the play in on time, so we're not milking the clock down 5, 4, 3, 2, which they do that all the time. It does feel like every single play, my son and I are watching the game, and we do a count. 5 seconds, let's go, snap it, Jordan, come on, 4, 3. I mean, they burned 2 timeouts because they couldn't get it off in time. It's a serious problem. If you run the clock down to 1 second, they're just going to jump. They're going to jump at any flinch, and that's going to be to the defensive line's advantage. They're going to jump sooner than the offensive line can react, and they're going to get to our freaking quarterback. And we will lose to Dallas if you allow this to happen again.
Hey, Ryan, Steve up in Alaska.
Yo.
Figuring by now you've gotten over the little bit of a pity party that you were having on Sunday. You were you were kind of sniveling and whining a little bit there, but not keeping the stiff upper lip. It's week 3. I know the game looked like crap. We looked like crap in the game offensively. I didn't get to watch it again. I'm going by what I could follow from, after the fact stuff. But and of course listening to what you went on when you were crying and whining. But yes, you did. And but I want to say this: everybody's got to not get so down about this. When I put in my prediction, I said we would be 13-4, and we'd probably lose 1 or 2 games that we absolutely shouldn't have lost. Here's a game we absolutely shouldn't have lost. Both Super Bowl runs that happened in your lifetime, in my lifetime. The 2010 season, we lost 2 games in overtime to the crappy Redskins, because they were the Redskins then, and Miami Dolphins, both bad teams, and we lost in overtime back-to-back weeks to those teams. Went on to win the Super Bowl. In '96, again, like this game, seemingly we had some injuries that were costing us, and we had a stretch in the season where we lost to a Colts team that I think mid-season had only won 2 games. They were awful. And it's just we can't. Something happened with my phone here. I hope you're still up. Get off. There. Some stupid survey call trying to bust in and cut my rant off. But we can't get too down on one bad game. One bad game. Yes, it was really bad. But there's a whole lot of game and a whole lot of football left to go. We get players back. We use this game as an object lesson. So later on in the season, when we go up against a team that we should beat, the coaches can look at it and say, now, don't get yourselves all too comfortable here. Remember Cleveland. And I also think that we were looking ahead to the Dallas game. I think Dallas was doing the same thing because they got stomped by the Bears. And there's no reason that offense, which for 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of the season, had looked phenomenal, can't do anything against the Bears. So everybody's got to calm themselves down. We'll be all right. Suggestion for you were saying something about something else to look up on YouTube. I know it's just movie stuff, but I found Wu-Tang has 70 Kung Fu theater movies all the cool ones where they do the voiceover stuff and it's, like insane kung fu fighting the whole time. So give that a chance instead of watching, police chases and people getting shot at, kung fu fighting, something different.
Good.
Still a lot of noise.
Kung fu fighting might be kind of cool. I do watch there's some wild fighting stuff on YouTube. I just saw one. I think it was in New Zealand, if I had to guess, based on the accent and the fact that at first I was like, I think they're British, but why does everybody look Hawaiian? Like, I'm super confused about that. And then I was like, oh, New Zealand. That's what I'm trying to think of. But they had a big, just got together in a garage, fought it out for 50 G's. How do you get, unless New Zealand dollars, apparently that would be, it's still 29 grand. It's a lot of money. 32,000 if it was Australia. Anyways, there's some crazy people out there doing crazy stuff. I know in England, they got some crazy bare knuckle and worse than that, too. Apparently, there's fighting leagues that allow eye gouging and stuff. But let's see what we got here. Wu-Tang Collection, Invincible Armor, Way of the Tiger. I never really watched these. These are a little bit before my time. I could try to check them out, I guess. I kind of jumped in more in I said my first exposure was like Steven Seagal, That was like my kung fu thing. That and Jean-Claude Van Damme, Walker, Texas Ranger, Oh, yeah. That's the good stuff. All right, well, we'll see. I love the sound effects.
Hey, this is Bill from South Carolina.
Yo.
And I'm a little older, so I remember a lot of the old days, starting in 1978. And we need all fans just to chill just a little bit. One thing, I grew up with the resurgence of the Packers with Brett Favre, and he would drive me crazy with throwing some stupid interceptions. Yeah, that can happen with a great quarterback. He thinks he can. However, the problem the Packers have is the coaching staff should have realized we have to get the ball out quick in order to stop this defense. And the very first possession of the Packers had, they got a quick pass on first down, got them about 8 yards. Why the hell is the coach calling another pass play when you have a really good running back in Jacobs that can pound you at least 2 yards to get a first down? Keep that drive alive. The only way to beat a great defense is to wear them down. And that, to me, from the very first possession, is where Lafleur goofed up. And I'm not going to blame this on Jordan Love. He's going to make some quirky mistakes just like Brett Favre. But that's why we loved him, because he can also throw the big dart that scores the winning touchdown. So I hope this sinks into you guys to realize that it's just one game. Thank God it was an AFC opponent and it doesn't affect our NFC ranking. The only bad news is we have to fix this quick because our offensive line looks like Swiss cheese. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.
Well, apparently that's a massive controversy right now, is how much to blame Jordan Love. And even some prominent Packers voices out there seem to be of the opinion that Brett Favre has never thrown an interception that looked that bad, which is a interesting perspective to have. He's thrown a lot of interceptions. It's hard to imagine none of them looked that bad, because I specifically remember seeing some horrifically ugly season-ending interceptions. But boy, the takes out there are getting pretty wild. But no, I agree. And, I will say, going back and looking at that interception, the problem with it, and even with my take on it, which is, essentially, it doesn't matter what was supposed to happen. Look at what is. There's a defender there. There's not a Packers receiver there. If you look at when his arm starts moving, and it's one of the great things that I loved about Jordan is he throws with anticipation, but the level of anticipation on that throw is psycho because he is still tangled up with the corner. He has not even started thinking about starting to break at that point when he's already throwing it. And again, I'm sure that works really well at times, but at this point, not so much. Again, the level of anticipation is I'm going to throw this, and then you're going to come out of your break and catch the ball. And he threw it, and that's where, again, Wicks, I think, probably drifted up when he didn't really expect that. And then, of course, you've got the defender. He must have, because the ball was not where Wicks ended up. So he must have expected Wicks to take a different route on that, angle on that, whatever. And again, he expected the defender. The problem with the whole defender thing, though, is, Wicks or Kraft was supposed to carry the safety, even if it doesn't matter what type of defense they're in, because Kraft hadn't even gotten close to the safety to where he could have carried that safety away. Maybe he would have carried that safety away if this play was a little slower. The point is the timing of it didn't make any sense. He's already throwing it before Kraft gets there. Why would the defender be like, screw it, I'm just going to run with the tight end? The tight end hasn't even gotten to him yet. So there's never going to be an opportunity for Kraft to carry away the safety or anybody that's in that range if Kraft can't even get there fast enough. So that whole play didn't really make, and unless you're supposed to wait a little bit and Jordan's throwing a little too early or too fast or something, I don't know. But it at least took a little bit of the sting out of it, because if you look at it from a standpoint of where everybody was when the ball gets there, you're thinking, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. If you look at it from the standpoint of when he threw it, it's a little bit different. It's still not great, but it does change things a touch. But no, I and again, I've been pretty critical of Jordan. I don't think he's playing terrible football right now. I'm more process than results oriented. So whereas this same personality seems to think that the outcome of that play should dictate how we feel about it, I look at it and say the guy played a pretty good game and threw one ball that was an errant ball. The time on the clock and where we were at on the field made that and the score made that situation a lot worse. But if we were up by 30 and we were on their 10-yard line, we would not even be thinking about that play, even though it's the exact same throw and the exact same decision, which is really all Jordan Love is controlling, is the decision. The result of that play is different. The result has a lot to do with Dontavian Wicks and all the other defenders and everything else on the field. Jordan's grade ends at the time the ball leaves his hand. Anywho, all right, I'm going to leave it at that for today. Appreciate all the calls, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Pressure, silver cursed to rust. 11 men in formation, but their line's about to bust. Green and gold destruction, tracking every play. Dallas dreams are nightmares when the wolf comes out to prey. He's coming, thunder in his cleats. He's hunting, victory complete. Crushing cowboys into dust. My God's war.